Hello, everyone. This is the Fabric Spotlight, a series of talks with enterprise CXOs, infrastructure executives, cloud infrastructure investors, and entrepreneurs. With our guests, we discuss industry trends and cover cloud, infrastructure, and enterprise topics. Today, I'm honored to host a talk with Frank Cittadino, CEO at QoS Networks. Hello, Frank.
Hey, Rajan, how are you?
Doing good. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on the show.
That's wonderful, Frank. Before we get into a lot of details on cloud and infrastructure and all the exciting topics, I'd like to talk a little bit about your role at QoS Networks, what is the vision behind it, and a bit of your journey up to this point.
Yeah, great. Love to. So I'm the CEO of QoS Networks. We're a managed network service provider. We like to focus in and around the edge. Networking is where most of our business lies today. And, we do a ton with SD-WAN, a lot with VeloCloud. I'm sure you know a lot about that. So excited to be here. Our journey has been a really fun 8 years. We started years ago implementing routers and switches and selling internet circuits in 2012. And at the time, I had a great business partner who we thought we were going to conquer the world. And in 2014, we started to learn about SD-WAN. And it was very promising and really exciting. We talked to Sanjay and Craig Connors and all the likes of the people at VeloCloud and several others. And we started to think about how this was going to be a disruptive technology, but not disruptive in the networking world. We thought that the most important thing was kind of cloud enablement and the proliferation of multi-cloud. And we were like, man, this is really going to probably grow big. How do we get more users toward the cloud? And we think SD-WAN is going to be the way it's going to happen. So, we started making more investments in and around, networking technologies and SD-WAN. And we really decided that early on, VeloCloud had a really cool way of going about it. So we jumped in, and that was in 2015 area. But prior to that, I grew up in New Jersey. I spent a lot of time in North Carolina at East Carolina University, got a finance degree, spent some good time working for Home Depot at a large retailer, which was a lot of fun, and then landed my way out to the West Coast on a whim one day, leaving the cold Northeast. And so when I got out here, I got into telecom sales and I did well, and I met Brian. We started the company, and that's where we are today is growing this great company. So fast forward a number of years, a lot of changes in our business. We've grown the business substantially. As we continue to grow, we're growing outside of SD-WAN. Now we're doing a lot with end user. We're doing a lot more with public cloud. We've got great partnerships with a lot of different great manufacturers. And importantly, a great thing that happened in our business in 2020, we teamed up with MC Partners out of Boston, who's a fantastic private equity group focused in our space, to launch our next phase of growth. And we're really excited to continue to grow our business in and around networking and enable global companies to really get to the cloud better than they have before.
It's interesting. You have become a managed services offering. The world has shifted from resellers and distributors to now people offering full managed services, and you seem to be at the cutting edge of it. What was your vision for the company? How did you get to envision this? Given the fact that you've got a very eclectic background, you come from finance, you are in retail, but now you're setting up a cutting edge managed services offering. What was your vision for the company as you set this up?
Yeah, so really 2 words kind of struck us really early, which were the words tech enabled, right? We kind of thought very early on that routine management wasn't going to cut it anymore. And there was going to be a flood of new types of devices hitting the market, IoT, all sorts of different things, right? And this was going to be enabled by all the different technologies in wireless. If we think about how these devices are connecting, there's been a ton of investment into wireless technologies, right? Wi-Fi 6, 5G, CBRS, and these are connecting a flood of new devices. So with all of these devices is going to come a lot of management, and it's impossible to manage this with people because it doesn't scale, right? So we thought, how do we drive better software to manage these devices better? Because we need to turn IT into a profit center, not a cost center. So we need to have technology be the way that customers drive value back to their end users. Well, we have to do that with automation and integration and AI. So our big differentiation is we believe that we bring a monitoring and management solution that's tech enabled, that integrates with customers, integrates with public clouds, integrates with edge, all the different edge networking tools to be able to give customers better observability. And at the end of the day, observability is not monitoring. It's completely different. So we think we do a significantly better job, and we've done a real good job at executing with the enterprise customer. And we've got a great go-to-market strategy that allows us to really drive incremental value for our customers.
This is very, very interesting. The fabric is focused on the cloud infrastructure as well as on the edge. And you talked a lot about the edge, and we are seeing a lot of activity around the edge cloud and edge services. What's your view about the edge cloud? Where is it going? How far has it come so far? And anything you can enlighten the entrepreneurs about what are the opportunities that may be coming ahead on the edge side of things?
Yeah, so edge is interesting. I've lived at the edge for the past 10 or so years now, so it's been a lot of fun to watch the growth. Right, 10 years ago, Cisco routers. Now it's the final frontier, right, as we like to call it. It's the kind of only untapped place. Like we've got the cloud, we've got end user, which are a ton of investment in, and now everybody's coming out and making all these investments into edge, which is really exciting. So it's a fun time to run a tech-enabled managed service provider. So we really enjoy that. And a lot of our revenues come from the edge. So it's exciting. But there's a couple things that's really driving edge technology. One, there's a need out there for kind of really low latency compute at the edge, right? A real-time compute, manufacturing and different things, autonomous driving, anything that has to do with autonomy, AI type of stuff in a customer use case really is going to need a better edge compute platform. Now, the second thing that's driving this, I mentioned it earlier, is really based around wireless technology. So as we get more and more wireless out there, and there's more and more IoT devices, and there's a flood of information, what that's really going to drive is going to drive the abstraction, right, of the compute layer. So we need to have IoT devices compute locally in the cloud, different areas. It needs to be distributed. Distributed cloud needs to move towards the IoT device for all different use cases. And the important thing here is that we need to be able to drive performance from all these devices, right? So as distributed cloud moves down towards the edge, that's driving edge cloud. Years ago in 2017, 18, we built a UCP device. We built what we at the time thought was going to be edge cloud. And we put, applications and a hypervisor on a device. We stuck it out there, and that wasn't really edge cloud. It's really, how do we take that public cloud feel? How do we bring that towards the edge? And how do we let the app run at the edge, the hybrid data center, the cloud, ubiquitously, and abstract it away from a location of compute so the user doesn't understand, anything that's happening behind the scenes, but they always have good performance. They always have good resiliency. So I think that's what's driving a lot of, edge cloud today. And for the entrepreneurs out there, I would focus a lot of my time on how do we have applications, right, deliver that performance, deliver that security, deliver that resiliency, because that's where clients are focused. If you look at the investment from clients, all the clients are making, or big clients are making, a lot of investments in application teams. They're not making great investments into, I might be a little biased here, but not making investments into, network engineers anymore. They're handing off that transactional work to tech-enabled companies like QoS, and they're investing their money into applications. So if we can bring those two together and leverage those technologies, I think there's a lot of, hay to be made there.
You touched upon a lot of different concepts in discussing the edge cloud. One aspect of that was security. Security at the cloud level and security at the edge level. Where do you see the enterprises? How do you see the enterprises approaching cloud security? And can you set it in the context of the edge cloud in addition to security in general?
Yes. So, cloud security is one of those things that's newer for customers out there. It's a concept that we've heard a lot, and security is not new, but the cloud security is a little bit new. So there's a framework that we like to talk about. And the first thing is, cloud security posture, right? Your security posture, it's talked about a ton, but cloud security posture, right? So why am I saying this? Well, there's a rapid adoption of all of these different things that are popping up in the edge that are needing to connect to the cloud, and they're connecting to via IaaS and SaaS and PaaS and all these other things, right? So there's a framework that we'd like to put out there. It's, evaluate, engage, and extend. You're going to evaluate, CASB providers. How do we secure intercloud? Okay. How are we going to engage our cloud operations teams, right? And have good cloud security posture awareness. And then how are we going to identify risk assessments to identify where information is moving from one workload to another cross cloud into different other clouds, moving back down to the edge. So if we do that framework, we identify the solutions that are in the marketplace. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to be scared of. We have a good strategy around it. And one of the things that I like to talk about, Rajan, we were chatting earlier, is I became a pilot earlier in my life. And, with being a pilot, there's inherent hazards and inherent risks. Being in the cloud, there's inherent hazards and risks. But with those hazards, you have a great risk mitigation strategy. And with that risk mitigation strategy, you always want to plan for the risks. You want to stay ahead of it, or stay ahead of the airplane. You want to stay ahead of security as best as you possibly can. And your job is to mitigate risk as much as you possibly can. If you mitigate the risk as much as you possibly can, you're assuring yourself a significantly better outcome than if you didn't think about it at all. So that's the way we kind of view the process and operations around cloud security. There is a myriad of technologies out there, right? And being a technology investor myself and being an entrepreneur myself, it's dizzying at times, but I'd say start with a good process. Start with good people, and then select your tools. The tools should be the last thing you select based on a really good risk mitigation strategy.
With the advent of the edge and the concept of security, SASE is bandied about quite a bit. In terms of an all-encompassing security, including the edge. But in addition to the security elements, there is also the quality of experience which seems to matter to people, especially in a world of distributed workforce. How do you see the needs, and how is it being addressed?
Yeah, so SASE is a newer term to the market. And when I think about SASE, I really think about what we call the blendification of security and network. And so really what's happening, many years ago, the large customers decided that, they wanted to take back control of their network. MPLS circuits were expensive, onerous contracts, slow lease lines, things like that. And they wanted to take that network control back. So SD-WAN allowed them to take that network control back, okay? So they got good control of the network, they can route it globally. Then what started to happen was MPLS was inherently secure. So because they took control of that network back and they went back towards, VPNs and things, a little bit tougher to manage, and security now became a much larger conversation at the edge. So because security became a larger, conversation, how do we secure this edge? So frameworks started to come out, and these frameworks, were called SASE, Secure Access Service Edge. And so how do we secure that edge while preserving quality of experience? Like, how do we do those two things? And so there are some concepts out there, from the NetForum that says conceptually, you need to have, cloud managed security gateways and things like that, right? And there's certain companies out there that do security their way. I'd say that when I think about this, there's SASE today is so nascent in what it is that it hasn't been very well defined. So let's abstract one level down to end users. End users increasingly now, Rajan, are moving throughout the world. The pandemic showed us that people can work from anywhere. And we believe at QoS, 30 to 40% of people will probably just never go back to an office. They probably were the people that wanted to work from home all along, and now they get to work from home forever. So how do we take these two conceptual topics of strong performance, good resiliency, and security, right? Blend them together and put them into an end user box? Well, there's a couple of things in there that we think about. Number one is, as me and you have talked about in the past, we need a system and we need innovation around, SD-WAN type services on an end user device. Once they're on an end user device, integration with common security tools for good identity awareness. Those two things alone allow us to have better performance to multi-cloud, better access to multi-cloud, and zero trust. Right now, we can have authenticated or identity-based security heading back towards the clouds. So with all that kind of put together, what are we trying to do? Well, the goal of any enterprise, which should be enable your users to attach to or hit any cloud from wherever they are, or a distributed cloud that's going to give them the best performance while having a very secure environment with things like zero trust, to step up, step down encryption based on workloads they're trying to hit. When you tie back into that end user, all of that becomes available. And I think there's some really fun innovation going on there. I know me and you have chatted about it in the past, and I'd like to see that kind of continue because, like I said, wireless technologies are going to continue to drive mobility and people moving around the world. And if we can give them this level of performance and security, it may really kind of leapfrog over box innovation, and the kind of the box guys will start to move towards end user because the branch will just become another giant Starbucks at one point.
That's a great analogy. And we have talked about the end user and moving to the end user and providing high quality of experience to the end user. And also we talked about wireless. You mentioned wireless over here. Where do you see the role of 5G in this? I know I'm propping up different elements of the infrastructure on you, Frank, but I'm just curious. How do you see 5G playing a role here? How do you see the quality of experience being affected by having something in 5G or maybe an SD-WAN overlay on 5G to the edge? How do you tie all of these things together?
Yeah, great question. And I'm a big believer in 5G. Or advanced, mobility, right? 5G, 6G, whatever it's going to be. But 5G today is really interesting to me. A few years ago, I got a glimpse into Frank Networks at the time, and they were doing some really cool things. And I met with their CEO, and I learned about mobile slicing. And I started to learn about how mobile operators were starting to operationalize 5G. And at the time, I was like, this is a little Star Wars. Well, fast forward a few years, and now there's a very clear-cut use case around how 5G is going to enable all different types of mobility, IoT, end user, all these things. So I think, as 5G gets instantiated into, public clouds directly, think Microsoft acquired a firm, right? And so they're deploying this 5G strategy. Verizon is spending a lot of time and energy in, MEC and tying together 5G with their MEC product, right? So as we start to look through 5G intertwining with the network companies, all of a sudden you've got big public clouds, you've got carriers ingesting with MEC, you have all these different things starting to intertwine 5G. It's going to natively start to be probably enabled into devices and things of that nature. And it's just going to be the way we probably connect. Now, it's got a lot of problems today in the way it's delivered, and it's not in a lot of areas, but those are things that we'll figure out in time. And then the need for terrestrial-based broadband just can probably go away, right? It's going to be, everything will be wireless enabled. In the last 30 years, all the investment went into wireless. And so it'll probably be, if I can envision it, a highly secure 5G enabled network that's pure multi-cloud enabled, and you can hit any cloud. And if you think about like what Equinix is doing with their cloud exchanges, that's like the V1 of the open flexibility concept, which is like connect everything to everything. And at some point with user-based authentication and zero trust, we're going to be able to authenticate based on who we are to any cloud. And then all of these different technologies are going to start to blend together. And I believe 5G is going to be the first enabler of that, to get really good solid network into those IoT devices and end users.
We have talked a lot about infrastructure in this, but what are the type of applications do you think that you see coming up, taking advantage of these kind of innovations, edge cloud, 5G? We're abstracting above the infrastructure itself, but what do you see that is coming up and what's driving it?
Yeah, so there's some great use cases out there. We do a lot in healthcare, which I think is really innovative and a lot of fun to talk about, which is going to get a big boost from technology. We work with a great company here in the Irvine area, large dentist company, where they're really innovating the dental field by using technology, right? So they're investing heavily into understanding, patients' mouths and things to try to identify core things that are happening over time with big cohorts to understand dental cancers and all these other things by using edge technology. So I think healthcare is getting a big boost, which I think is really cool. But there's a lot of different use cases at the edge. We've got a very large customer that's in the storage industry that's in the middle of a digital transformation strategy to have you walk on site and be 100% autonomous in storing things and be all automated every step of the way. Walk in, walk to your unit, boom, it opens and away you go. So automation is driving the storage industry, which is really neat. And I think when we start to talk about real-time compute and then low latency compute, you start talking about things like you're at a manufacturing plant and you're stamping bumpers and the guy's hand's in the way and the machine says, no, there's a hand there. I'm not going to go smash the guy's hand today, right? Or, facial recognition software, right? So you're walking through an airport and we can pick out people that, hey, you just passed your gate. Your gate's behind you. It's 10 feet behind you. Not that we're trying to pick out bad guys all the time, but hey, you're supposed to be on this flight over here. You walk onto a flight and security requirements come down because we get to use facial recognition that now matches your license that you registered with the DMV. So we know it's you, right? And things like that. And the pandemic one is taking temperatures remotely to say, yeah, you don't have a temperature. So all of these things are kind of like use cases that drive good edge compute, that drive, connectivity to multi-cloud. And I didn't even mention the big one, Rajan. You got all these Teslas driving around and this autonomous driving. And now you live in, the Valley. And so you probably see all these cool cars driving around. I live in SoCal, so I don't get to see as many, but that's the next step too. I mean, you're going to have all these cars driving around and it's edge compute if you think about it.
Yep, absolutely. Frank, you've had a very interesting journey as an entrepreneur. You're also been a pilot where you are hit with unexpected situations. Any parting advice to the audience, especially to the entrepreneurs, given your success? And I'm sure you must have had your share of difficulties along the way. What advice would you give, particularly for young entrepreneurs? Where do you see opportunities? Any advice on how they navigate through the situations and build up a successful company like you did with QoS Networks?
Yeah, so thank you for that. The first thing is I like to say to entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship, Rajan, is just a labor of love. Okay, you got to fall in love with the process. It's yes, you have to have a strategy in mind, and yes, you got to visualize where you want to go, but it's a labor of love, and there's going to be ebbs and there's going to be flows, and you got to learn from the ebbs and you got to celebrate the flows. And I have around the company here, they call them Frankisms. I have things that I kind of say the same things over and over again to our staff. And I truly believe, but one concept though, that I'd like to tell every entrepreneur, which is the team is what really, really matters at the end of the day. And teamwork is kind of the most important thing. The Yankees have the biggest payroll in all of sports and they don't always win, right? Why? You got to put together a good team. And so I like to say it's okay to fail, but don't fail for the same reason twice, right? That's important. And don't let perfection get in the way of progress. I think at the end of the day, we have to make progress. Customers are aware that it's a V1 or a V2 product. They're willing to take some progress here instead of some perfection. So we got to get things out the door. The businesses fail with good products. Businesses fail with good go-to-market strategies, and businesses fail with good products and good go-to-market strategies, right? It's the team that matters in all of that. Good teams will get you through bad products. Good teams will get you to a good go-to-market, and good teams will get you through hard times. And so when you put that all together, I always focus on teamwork. And I always say to my team, I try to hire the best individuals I can and have them teach me about their craft. And I've learned a lot around go-to-market. I've learned a lot around product. I've learned a lot around all sorts of things. But I really enjoy coming to work every day and learning from all the different people that work at the organization, right? And we've grown exponentially. And I still come in every day learning about our team, their family lives, what they're doing today, how they're changing and driving value for our customers. That's a lot of fun. Customers are not expecting perfection. They're expecting you to have a good team, work with them, own the problems that come up, and do a good job of fixing them. And you could only do that with a really, really good team. So entrepreneurs, fall in love with the process, fall in love with the labor because it's a lot of work, and enjoy working with the people you do. And if you focus on good operations, don't worry about competition. Focus on what you're doing here. Competition will follow you if you're doing a good job, and that's how you know you're doing things right.
Well, Frank, thanks very much for your time. You highlighted being a fellow entrepreneur. I really relate to the aspect of the team which you emphasized for young entrepreneurs. You are the first entrepreneur in the managed service provider market that we have spoken with, and you have given us some great food for thought here. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Rajan. I appreciate your friendship.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll be back soon with another insightful Spotlight episode.